give your attention to the short video. Jackie, if you could run the video.
This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness for others. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organizations, but providing such information is voluntary. Citizens participating in person wishing to speak should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand in Zoom or submit a public speaker card, and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
All right, thank you for that. Next, we'll do roll call. So, Jackie, if you can conduct the roll call, please.
Member Byrne?
Present.
Member Wilson?
Present.
Member Foster? Member Karimi?
Present.
Member Keeshan? Member Olson? Member Riley?
Present.
Member Riker?
Present.
Member Simmons?
Present.
Vice Chair Weeks?
Here.
Chair Sarmiento?
Here.
Okay, we have all members present except for members Foster and members Olson.
All right, thank you. Next item is item number 2, which is public comment. Jackie, have we received any written public comment?
No written public comment received.
Okay. Is there anyone wishing to speak during public comment on an item that is not part of the agenda? If so, please submit a public speaker card or raise your virtual hand, and staff or I will call upon you. All right.
And there are no hands raised.
Okay. All right, that concludes our public comment item. So next we'll move to item 3, which is the consent calendar. That includes the summary of actions from the May 2024 CBPAC meeting. Are there any changes or comments from the committee on the consent calendar? All right, seeing none. Jackie, Chris.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
All right, actually, right before we do that, Chris, I just want to check if there's any public comment on the item.
There's no written public comment or virtual hands raised.
Okay, so I have a motion by Vice Chair Weeks. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, second by Committee Member Riley. Jackie, take the roll call vote, please.
Member Byrne?
Aye.
Member Wilson?
Aye.
Member Foster? Member Karimi?
Abstain.
Member Keeshan?
Aye.
Member Olson? Member Riley?
Aye.
Member Riker?
Aye.
Member Simmons?
Aye.
Vice Chair Weeks?
Yes.
Chair Sarmiento?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with members Foster and Olson absent and abstain from Member Karimi.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to regular agenda items. The first item on the regular agenda is a review of the Complete Streets checklist for compliance with MTCE Resolution number 4493, which will be presented by CCTA staff.
Good morning, Chair and members of committee. Ray Akawi from Advanced Mobility Group. I'm here to present the 684 interchange, the Iron Horse Contra Costa Canal and Trail Connectivity Study. So the project, as you see the map there, like in front of you. So this is the interchange, 684 interchange. The project aims at to improving the interchange, eliminating some of the loops, and also constructing flyovers to connect the southbound 680 with the eastbound. Same thing with connector from the northbound to westbound, along with the widening of the Highway 4. The project was divided into 5 phases. So phase 3, which was the widening of the Highway 4, was completed in 2021, and we are moving forward with the other phases of the project. So part of the project is to provide a, let me just, okay. Oh, just about this one, okay. Okay. So this is gives you the project limits of the interchange itself. So it is located in city of Concord and the city of Martinez, and extends from the just south of Center Avenue to south of the road overhead and on 680, and on Highway 4 it is from Morello Avenue to just Highway 242, just maybe east of Highway 242, and the project, as I mentioned, we have a study to connect the 2 canals, because maybe just going back. Can I go back to this? Okay, okay. Okay. So the vicinity of the project includes you see the Contra Costa Canal Trail and the Iron Horse Trail, and also Iron Horse Trail comes on the other side. So on the west side of the 680 interstate freeway. So as part of the interchange improvements, we would like, we wanted to provide connectivity between these 2 trails. And so we wanted to have a start the project. Usually, the project development phase is to have a study, which could be like a project study report. Then you go to environmental phase. Then you go to design and construction. So as for now, we want to do the study, and the study just to include a certain scope in it, which is the purpose and need of the project, is to have a safe trail connection between the Iron Horse Trail and the Contra Costa Trail, and look at the environmental, first define the maybe several alternatives, and look at the environmental impacts and also right-of-way impacts, and getting feedback from the bikers about the, once we present the alternatives, so which preferred alternative is going to be selected, and with that going to be the cost estimate for construction and and right-of-way, and then we're going to proceed with the next phase of the project, which is going to be the environmental phase, assuming we have the funding. So this is a schematic of what we think we can as one alternative. But this is just initial concept. So connecting the Iron Horse Trail using a Class 1, and then we have we have a crossing Gracing Creek, so we need to have a small bridge there, and continue with a Class 1 path, and we have the 680 abutment. We have to do some modification. And then we have a Class 2 going all the way, even under Highway 4, connecting at I don't know if you can see it here. So we're going to connect with the Iron Horse Trail on this side. So this is initial concept that we put it like in the RFP, request for proposal, from the designers, so they know what we're thinking, and they will come up with like several maybe alternatives. At least we're asking for 3 alternatives that can be presented to the committee. And with that, like, we're putting also a schedule. So the consultant will be on board next month. They start the study in September. We come back, present to you like in December, so give them enough time to come out like with alternatives and looking at the impact of these alternatives on the environment, and right-of-way, and maybe we have like a preliminary cost estimate for each alternative. And we're looking forward to complete the study by April 2025. What we have now is $500,000, and it's been allocated from Regional Measure 3, and it's the cost. We hoping like it's going to cost less than that $500,000, but that's what we had funding asked from MTC. We don't have like a design cost or like any other cost yet, and also we don't have any funding source for that for the project development and for construction. Once we know the cost of the project, the capital cost, then we can assess the design and right-of-way cost and construction management. And we can with your help, we can go start seeking funding. So that's all I have now. And as I said, it's still very, very preliminary stages of the project, identifying the just a schematic for the what we think the path, the connectivity between the 2 trails, and seeking some feedback from you, just like on initial design. And I'm here if I have any question.
All right, thank you for that presentation. Let's first turn over to the committee. If there are any comments or questions from the committee, just raise your hand. Or Committee Member Keeshan?
Yes, I guess the question is, do you have a general sense of what the overall costs are going to be?
If we go with this with this alternative, so we're looking maybe like between $5 to $10 million, and dependent on like the impact on Grayson Creek, and also like the impact of environmental.
Okay, so the presumption is you're going into this with the idea that you'll probably be able to get the funding to do this project if everything else checks out.
Yes.
Perfect.
All right, any other questions? Committee Member Simmons?
Thank you. You mentioned that there'd be 3 proposals. Each one of those proposals would be Class 1 and Class 2. Is any of the proposals would change that?
Okay, so we're asking for at least 3 alternatives, and yes, it's going to be a combination, maybe Class 1, Class 2, and I guess one time when we had a discussion with the East Bay Bike Coordination Committee that were supporting the CCTA, there was a thought building a bridge over Highway 4 or a bridge over 680, and that's going to really throw the project out of discussion, because nobody will be looking. It's going to be very costly to bring a bridge over 680, because the right-of-way you have to go on both sides of 680. You need to extend the bridge too far, and right-of-way issues, environmental issues, and so we thought if there's going to be maybe one alternative, maybe looking at the bridge, but I don't want to waste the money on studying, building a bridge. We know that's going to cost maybe 50, 60, more than that, and we don't have the funding. So we want to have like something that's feasible and provide the purpose and need, satisfies that, and also be safe. So we prefer like, maybe, class 1 because that's going to be the safest, bike path. But certain areas we have to be on maybe on the road, but they have to be protected. We're using class 2. So and there was a thought also like maybe bringing it south. Let me just go back to the plan. If we can go on on this side, and instead going like north, we're going this side, keep it like on the cities on the existing roads, but also we're still gonna having issue crossing underneath 680. So we're leaving that up to the designers to come up like with the alternatives, and once they present, and you have like maybe if you have something different, different alternative or like improved what's being proposed to you, we are. I mean, that's the purpose of like coming to you, getting your feedback.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
All right, Vice Chair Weeks.
Thank you, Ray, for your comments and presentation. Just had a couple clarification questions. Thank you for working on this, by the way. It's much needed, and a lot of people were scratching their head at the edge of the trail thinking what needs to happen next, so thank you for getting into this. Did have a question about the choices of Class 1 and Class 2. So from the mouth of the Contra Costa Trail down to Pacheco, there's a section of, I think it's Muir there, that is, it's uphill one direction, 2 freeway on-ramps going on there. There's a good amount of space, I think, on the south side of the road there. Is there any potential for maybe having Class 1 going from the Contra Costa Trailhead down to Pacheco, just extending it along the side of the road there so that you have a full-size, wide, protected connection? And then the second piece of that question is what you're probably guessing I'm going to ask next. Underneath Highway 4, there is a bike lane there, there's a sidewalk, there's a good amount of space there. I don't know the exact measurements, but it would sure be nice to have the trail go along there also. And still be off the road, but just be an extra wide shared use trail. Just a thought, and if we could throw that in the pot or in the hat or whatever they're going to use to figure this out, that would be great. Any thoughts there?
Thank you, Chris. Bruce Ari, I guess maybe we need to thank him for because he's the one that brought this subject to our attention. And so, as I said, this is only schematic. This is like I drew it by hand. Just so this is, I want to show like the designers, whoever like be proposing on the project. That's what we're thinking. And we put the class 1, class 1, class 2. These are not cast in stone. So if there's a space and they, we can do class 1 there, why not? I mean, this is, and we have like maybe looking at also the impacts on the traffic, on environmental, and right of way. So we were not married to this alternative, but this is like I have to show the designer here. I want something. That's what I'm thinking. If you have different alternative, and that's why we ask for 3. And of course, we always like looking for the safety of the bikers. So class 1, that's what we want. But if it's not achievable, we try to minimize using class 2.
No, thank you. That's a great answer. And the particular worry I didn't get to suss out there completely is the freeway on-ramp and off-ramp there. And if we're having people wanting a leisurely ride on the trail and then they think that they need to navigate that, I think it's a drastic level of intensity there, especially going uphill from Pacheco up towards the Contra Costa Trail. It might be hard for your average person. So maybe consider doing something like that on that side of the trail, or even one step back, a Class 2B, which would be like a buffered version of a Class 2. Yeah. Just a little more protection, maybe with some vertical elements, just as much protection and calmness as you can add to that area, I think would be very much appreciated. There's a lot of hubbub, people going on and off the freeway. So I'd recommend that if they can throw that into the hat. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, this is the, the idea behind, coming here, seeking your feedback. And, we'll have the designer address these comments.
All right, Committee Member Wilson.
Thanks for the presentation. Just wanted to let you all know that the Park District is actively bringing on a consultant right now to design an extension of the Iron Horse Trail from where it currently ends at Marsh Drive to Imhoff. And it's looking like there will probably be a connection to Imhoff, possibly an at-grade crossing there. Just that's to be determined, but there will be a connection to Imhoff, so that could be another potential option for a connection. And then my question was, will the study look at all at maintenance needs and funding and potentially, potential jurisdictions to maintain the connection, and if it's going to differ between where it's Class 1 and Class 2?
So the study will look at into the maintenance and operation of that what's being proposed and where it would be constructed, and it will leave that to next phases to get all this maintenance agreement, who will be maintaining it, and but it will put the framework for the future agreement. Yeah.
All right, Committee Member Riley.
Hi, thanks for doing this. This is an important connection. I wish Member Olson was here after the McColmy Trail overcrossing got completed. This is sort of his next big thing that he was, hoping for. I think that he'll definitely provide his input even outside of this meeting. So I just had a question, and sorry for not knowing this exact, geography here, but the places where it's going under the highways, are those already existing pathways that exist underneath the structures, or are those going to be new under crossings?
It's a combination.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's we tried to define the once we get the alignment, and if there's a need to do something now, because we have a project, as I said, the main project, which is we call it Phase 1 and Phase 2A and Phase 4. So this is in the area of Phase 1 and Phase 4. And so if there's a need to do something under the freeway, and we can do it with these phases, so we can save some money for when we implement this project, we'll do it. There's some roadway and available, but that's going to be used by, it currently is used by Caltrans and the flood control district. So we have to get into an agreement with them to allow us to use it, or maybe improve it so we can allow bikes on it. If needed, if we don't get that, so we have to build a new roadway especially underneath the freeway.
It's good that you mentioned flood control. It sort of goes to my next point. There's a path at Wild Creek path in North Richmond under the Richmond Parkway that is, during the rainy season, constantly flooding. There's a pump that was there that's supposed to drain it and all that stuff. It's been a long-standing, sort of problem in that area, and I would hate to see this sort of get repeated here. And so I'm sure that that's something you all will take into consideration as you go, forward making these plans.
Committee Member Foster.
Hi, thank you. Although I do miss the presentation, I'm looking at the map here. Can you tell me if there's an equity benchmark here? As in, would this benefit low-income commuters to reduce their dependence on cars?
Yes, actually, that's a good question, and another purpose of the project, because we have there's a park and ride facility in this area here. So that's by having this path. So so people they can go all the way, they can ride the bike and get to the park and ride facility. We have in this area here that's a mobile home community there, And we are maybe, I don't say like, too far from that, 5 to 6, like, community that's going to be, further to the east. But at least by providing this connection, it will help, people, get to from one side of the freeway to the other side of the freeway, and maybe use the park and ride facility.
Any other comments? Committee Member Burt?
Hi, thank you for this. I guess my question is, I guess about who is this going to be designed for? So I know we have both peds and bikes on these trails. Are we going to have pedestrian scale improvements? Lighting, shade, any components to cater towards those users as well?
That's going to be part of the study. Yeah. So, I mean, because the purpose is just to have it like, a safe, connectivity there. So by being safe, it's not only like, the path, the roadway, or the other amenities that have to come with it. Especially, like we know under the freeway, and especially at the abutment location, we have like, homeless encampment there. So we have to make sure that, this road this path is safe for the bikers and for pedestrians. So added security features, including the lighting, is going to be part of the study.
Committee Member Foster.
A quick follow-up. Let's make sure that there's posted speed limits because of the e-bikes. Because I know it's typically like 15 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So just to add that safety feature.
Thank you. And maybe because, what I said at the beginning, like we're going to come back with alternatives, and we're still going to, be seeking your input and feedback. So something's missing, and you have another opportunity, maybe two more opportunities to comment. Thank you.
And to Council Member Foster's point about access for low income, it seems pretty reasonable that maybe that mobile home, that it could be built for better access for the mobile home park. Have you explored that, or is that going to be part of the design?
Well, as you see, like the Iron Horse is in that area. So looking at Marsh, like giving me access on Marsh Drive to get to there. If that's what you're asking.
Okay, I thought maybe that lower area was mobile home park. So
yeah, so this is the mobile home area here. So to give them access, I mean, we'll be looking at maybe improving some of the like, because this is
okay.
This
so
is
they
the
would
this
just
is the airport.
head up Marsh Drive and then
yeah.
you bang it, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to add, from the county, we are looking into, in the future, installing a Class 1 bicycle facility along Marsh Drive. Actually, you have county staff here. I don't know if you have.
Yeah, Carl Roner, I'm the Iron Horse Corridor Manager and also a member of Transportation Engineering. We actually have a Marsh Drive bikeway plan, and at this point it's mostly AOE funded. Right now it's in earmarks in Congress, so it's on its way. So that area will be served with a bikeway that will connect the Iron Horse Corridor along Marsh Drive.
And when you say facility, can you describe that?
It'll be on Marsh Drive as part of the street. It'll be a class one. I'm new to this, so.
A causeway?
It'll be a Class 1. It should be a separated, or it should be like a separated trail, bike ped trail.
Well, it's a part of the roadway, so I guess that's not outside.
That's Class 2.
All right, okay, Committee Member Foster.
I was speaking to Committee Member Burns' comment on, canopy and landscaping. I wonder if there's a way to leverage those California relief grants. I think it's also partnered with USDA, and I believe they do have funding or grants for adding canopy to low-income communities, since this is actually, intersecting by the mobile park. So if there's an opportunity to add canopy by that trail where there are low-income communities, I think that would be very optimal.
Go ahead.
So along those lines, and this is obviously going to be in the design kind of mode, but I really would love to see bike repair stations, right? Those kind of things as part of the canopy, where people who get into a flat or something like that have the tools that they can make the repairs in those kind of situations.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments? Okay, Vice Chair Weeks.
Just wanted to add on top of that, there's some, Carl's here, so thank you for presenting a little information, Carl. We have some big plans for the Iron Horse Trail and other trails in the area, and future new planning projects that are going on. And one of them is far out, but we're hoping to look into double tracking the trail in San Ramon at some point. And I just want to make sure that when we're looking at the right-of-way, that whoever's planning this and your consultant that you brought on is in the know about that kind of long-range plan for the mobility element for the Iron Horse Trail, and that we try to integrate that into the plan. So if you jot those notes down and maybe get on a call with Carl, you can get up to speed on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I do have one comment. I'm curious about the, stakeholder and community engagement associated with this study.
Yeah, and that's actually when you mentioned about Marsh Road, and so we'll be having a stakeholder meeting. So especially to define the scope of the project. So we will be inviting all stakeholders. Not only the cities, the counties, and this body, and also maybe the East Bay, bike coalition, and I don't think there are representatives of the mobile home, but we have part of the study is to reach out to all the stakeholders and get the feedback from them. It's only as a scoping, as I said, it's not like, a environmental phase, it's still initial phase to define the scope of the project and maybe get the alternatives being presented and agreed upon.
Okay, thanks. And that was going to be my follow-up if the county, because the county is going to be involved, because we've been interested in some bicycle and pedestrian improvements along the Imhoff corridor. So it's first, thank you for CCTA for initiating some study effort there, and I appreciate the county being involved as a stakeholder.
As I said, thank you, Mr. Bruce Ali again, because I used to meet with him. We have a quarterly bike coalition meeting, and he brought this to our attention, and we start looking into it, and we have to carve some money from our regional measure 3 to do this study.
All right. Any other final comments or questions? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Oh, thank you for allowing me to present. Thanks.
You're welcome. Oh, actually, before I let you off, one thing I do have to procedurally, if there's any public comments on this item, my apologies.
There's no hands raised, and I have not received any public comment on this.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jackie. All right. Thanks, Rex.
Thanks.
Okay. We'll move on to item 4B, which is review of the draft Caltrans District 4 bike plan update. And this item will be presented by Caltrans staff. Jasmine?
Cool. That's it. Cool.
Oh, thank you all so much for having me and for being here. I'm Jasmine Stitt. I work for Caltrans in the Bicycle and Pedestrian branch, and I am the lead on the bike plan update. The bike plan update is going to identify opportunities for improvement on and across the state highway system. Okay, cool. So why are we updating the bike plan? We currently have a bike plan. Caltrans does. It was the very first district in Caltrans to have a bike plan. It's at this point 6 years old. And this is a good opportunity for engagement. We at Caltrans actually don't engage with our local stakeholders as much as we should. It's also a great opportunity to performance track, to look at what we've done, to look at what we've done well, to look at what we've done not as well, and how to build on our success and move forward and identify more ways that we can better serve cyclists. So we start off the process with identifying draft vision and goals. These draft vision and goals are actually really similar to our last bike plan update. We did change a couple of the wording and things like that, but it's actually just really similar. It's also kind of similar to MTC's active transportation plan. Safety, mobility, and equity, they have the same three. They don't call mobility, they call it mode shift, but it's really similar. So we're being pretty consistent with our region and with the state in terms of what our vision and what our goals are. So the next thing that we did, we spent quite a bit of time doing, is identifying location-based needs. So these are essentially projects or things that could be incorporated into other projects, and there's deficiencies in our bicycle network. So we looked at our last list of bike plan kind of project list. We deleted projects that were under construction or have been completed. We're very excited that San Pablo in El Cerrito is actually has a small segment under construction. It's actually going to be the first protected intersection in Caltrans right-of-way that is built out of not plastic posts, so kind of better quality things. It's actually a thing that our bike plan found is that intersections are really where we at Caltrans should be looking at. We have a lot of collisions at intersection, and we haven't been building as many protected intersection and intersection type infrastructure as we should. So so we deleted projects that are completed. We looked at all the jurisdiction bike plans, so a lot of jurisdictions have had bike plan updates, and we wanted to be consistent with that. And we added the projects identified in those plans to our list. We also did kind of extensive community comments. We had over 200 community engagement comments throughout last summer when we started doing our outreach. We also looked at gaps in our low-stress network. We looked at severe collision locations, and we also looked at countywide priority bikeways. So a lot of things that we've been doing. So we then had a very large list. Here on the right is our large kind of list of things throughout the region. We have around 500 locations identified. So we took those 500 locations or so, and we gave them all a ranking based on our three criteria. So we scored each of our criteria based on a number of different metrics. So for safety, we have a weighted crash density. For equity, we have Cal Enviro Screen and MTC's Equity Priority Communities. Mobility was a little bit more challenging to rank and to quantify, but we did it based on density of short trips, kind of motor vehicle trips that could be, that have the ability to switch over to bike ped. We looked at regional bikeway networks, we looked at proximity to transit, we looked at public feedback, and we looked at a thing called permeability, which is how difficult it is to cross our facilities, since our facilities are actually quite difficult just to cross. So then we ranked it on high, medium, and low. So high is in green, meaning that there's a lot of need there. Mid is kind of our mid, a third of our projects. And low are still lots of need there, but they just didn't rank as high on safety, mobility, and equity. So we have an online story map. So it goes into a lot of detail if you want to zoom in at different locations throughout the county and look at different places. It actually ranks all of our 500 or so locations and by mobility, safety, and equity. And you can look at kind of in more depth on how we rank them. So it goes into quite a bit of detail. So yeah, and it has a place for public comment. So you can comment on there. just the public can. We are focusing on stakeholder engagement, but yeah, just the public can too, so yeah. Just a highlight of Contra Costa's projects that were on there. Of course, San Pablo Ave is very high. Also connecting interchanges. We had a number of interchanges throughout the county that really need bike improvements throughout Pittsburgh, Richmond, Contra Costa. Just a lot of interchanges that aren't comfortable, convenient, or connected that were identified for improvements. We also, as part of this thing, came out with a draft best practices. So the draft best practices lay out kind of where we want to go as in the district, and it actually it's civil and design guidance, and one of the main things that it has in it is interchange guidance. So there is. It actually has one of the most comprehensive interchange bicycle improvement guides on there that exists for Class 4s and Class 1s. So this is interchanges that we hope are convenient, comfortable, and connected. We've been really pioneering some of these interchanges in District 4. A lot of the ones in here are actually in Santa Clara County, but yeah, this has a partial cloverleaf interchange and how you would incorporate a Class 4 into partial cloverleafs. We have great separated interchanges. We have diamonds. We go into all the things. So yeah, this is also available for review, and we're really excited about it. And it kind of connects with all of our improvements identified. So our improvements will then reference the best practices. So when it says, oh, interchange improvements, it references these page numbers. So it's not just, oh yeah, we need to improve interchanges. It's like, well, how do we improve them? And it kind of lays out kind of some of the guiding principles for that. We also have kind of an interim design. So while really robust improvements is better, this kind of lays out how you would do interchange improvements on sort of a quick build type of budget. And Fremont did one in Alameda County, and we're starting to do more and more of these throughout the region. And we really want to get your feedback on it. We want to know if what we're doing is good and what if it's serving cyclists as best as we can. So yeah, I'm here to get your opinion and feedback. So what are some high priority bikeways in Contra County on and across the state highway system? How can Caltrans be a better partner to our local jurisdictions and publics? And what would you like to see Caltrans do to improve bicycle mobility?
Thank you for that presentation, Jasmine. I'll first turn it over to the committee members. If they have any questions or comments, raise your hand. All right, Committee Member Keeshan.
The criteria that you use, the three prongs, it's the mobility, I forget.
Oh, equity and safety, yeah.
Okay. Seems to put the Contra Costa corridor at a little bit of a disadvantage in terms of priorities.
You mean like,
Yeah, on the map that you have, they're all red, which basically indicates that
oh, this
not a priority.
Yeah. You had a lot of high priority ones. This one, I'm sorry. This one has San Ramon in it for mostly. Richmond has a lot of green. Antioch and Concord have quite a bit of green. Yeah, sorry. I should have made a better one for this. But yeah, this one just has a lot of San Ramon in it. I should have, yeah.
But still, I mean, the criteria seems to be putting this corridor at a little bit of a disadvantage from a prioritization standpoint.
It does. You're correct. And we do want to do some of manual adjustments. So we actually worked really a lot with this county of Marin because they also had that same, they had a lot of, we wanted more higher priorities, and we don't switch.
So maybe there's a fourth.
Yes.
Or something that can.
Yeah, there is technically a fourth, like, countywide. We switch it if there's if the need for it is to connect long distance trips. So like if it's county priorities, we bump it up. So that's actually what if there's a specific one in San Ramon or like places that aren't getting any, we actually do want to get some of your feedback on if we had to bump up one, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about in the past some some bike bridges and stuff like that to handle the contested areas in San Ramon and Danville.
All right, Vice Chair Weeks.
Hi, I'm from San Ramon, so hello.
Hi.
Representing SWAT. I can tell you that we have a large amount of dense housing planned for infill development inside Bishop Ranch and a walking district, and also a new mobility hub, which is part of CCTA's plan to mitigate the impacts of some freeway enhancements that are planned. So I can tell you there's no bicycle infrastructure over Bollinger, which is surprised to see it come up as low on here. So it seems like maybe that what you're scoring needs to be explained a little better, because if the weighting is primarily, based on connecting specific things, then it should say that's what it is. It makes it look like it's of low importance, and I think that that's what Member Keeshan was saying, that it just seeing from Dublin all the way up to Danville, all red dots, makes it seems like it's all hunky-dory on the corridor for crossing the freeway. So we also have some major plans related to the CARM, Coordinated and Adaptive Ramp Metering Project, and also the CATS signaling project that's going to be along the San Ramon Valley Boulevard. And both of those are on, you basically have two sides of the freeway with Bollinger right in between those two. So I think maybe including the analysis of that interchange and maybe Sycamore up in Danville, which is part of that, also part of that CATS and CARM project, looking at moving bikes and peds across the freeway in those two locations could be considered an alternative priority, just to move forward the technology component and pilot that we're doing with CARM on the corridor, making sure pedestrians are included in the prioritization of movement across the highway. Thank you.
That's a good point. Thanks.
All right, Committee Member Foster.
I thank you for the presentation. If Bruce was here, he would, and his bonus contention is having to use Highway 4 between Willow Pass Road and Port Chicago Highway. What would it take to not get on Highway 4, even if it's authorized? That he even mentioned how many times CHP would stop him for using, the shoulder, even though bikes are allowed. I mean, if it means eminent domain on the golf course or the weapon station property, just to keep the bikes off Highway 4, that would be so much appreciated. It's just to connect Concord to East County, because we are missing that connection.
He did actually already give us that feedback, and it's included in our priority in our list of projects. I forget where it ranks on it, but it's included. I will double check on its ranking.
Yeah, and he would probably even say it's a death trap.
He did. I believe he did call it that last time as well. He does. Yeah, that's true.
I would just like to add, as the last item that was just presented is on Imhoff, so I think that's, it's also Committee Member Olson's, idea, and I think that's what he wants to see is a connection, the Iron Horse Trail in Central County, a trail all the way to East County, so I think that's what he's looking for. So just wanted to mention that. Any other Committee Member comments, questions? Right. Committee Member Byrne, and then I'll go to Keeshan after.
Yeah, thank you for this. One of your questions was, what can Caltrans do to do better with local agencies? Is there a point of contact where if, a city or the county has a project within or near the Caltrans jurisdiction, who should the contact be?
If it's a bike ped issue, then it's Greg Curry or Sergio Ruiz. So they both, Greg Curry is their branch chief of the bike and ped branch. Our branch is really heavily involved in bike ped issues. So whether it be a maintenance issue or a Caltrans-led project or another, or a county or city led project, we're really involved in that. So they would be the main points of contact.
Thank you.
Just a minor, I guess, observation, when you do these presentations, wherever you have like a URL, I'd recommend having a QR code, because I saw people snapping pictures of it. Why not, right? That way it just makes it easier for people to have access to the information.
It's true. Thanks. I should switch it to a QR code. Yeah. Or both. Sorry. Yes, both would be. Yeah.
All right, Committee Member Riker.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. How long did you say you're trying to get public input on this?
We're going to have our public input period be quite long, so we're not going to close out our survey until probably the end of September. So it takes a while to go to all 9 counties because I'm presenting at all of them. So yeah, all the way until September or the end of September.
Okay, because we work for 511 Contra Costa with a pretty good public outreach capability, so we'd like to be able to share this out and try to get more than the 200 comments. I think we can help bump your numbers on that.
Thanks.
I don't see the link. I don't see an actual survey. I'm looking all over this.
So if you go to the story map, embedded in the story map is a thing about as a place to provide comments. So it's not like a survey. We had a survey at the beginning, but yeah, the story map links and then has comments in it.
It's just that field where you can type in.
It's a field where you can type in comments.
Got it.
So,
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, any other committee member questions or comments? I do have I guess maybe a comment and a question. You know, there was a question about, who's the contact person, at Caltrans, and, Greg and Sergio. I think they're aware of this. I think I've made this comment before in terms of, I think we've coordinated with them on, on previous bike ped projects that, are within the Caltrans right away, and we've gotten buy-off from, Greg and Sergio, but there seems to be a disconnect sometimes when we work, with Caltrans engineering staff. So, a disconnect, and they either are slow or not as enthusiastic for bike ped projects as, you and your colleagues are. So that's just the comment I want to make, that hope, that Caltrans, it's easier to work with, all, I guess, each level or each of the different departments at Caltrans. So that's one comment. And the other one too, I have just, I'm curious when it comes to funding. I know Caltrans has a shop and a STIP program, and I'm curious if funding from those 2 programs would ever be available for these kind of projects, because they are, like, it's a Caltrans facility, or it's crossing a Caltrans facility. So I just wonder if that's available.
Yeah, that's absolutely those are both good points. Just to start with the second one, yes. We are hoping that we don't have what we call the standalone bike ped mobility projects, whose only purpose and need is bike ped mobility. We kind of tack on bike ped improvements to current repaving projects, and we don't want to do that. We want to move in a direction that we do have that. So Caltrans, for the first time in District 4, had a standalone bike safety project that the only purpose and need was bike safety. So we did that. We only have 1 or 2 of those throughout throughout District 4, but we want to initiate more of those. But yeah, the part of this update is identifying which ones we could do as a standalone bike mobility project, because in headquarters, we now have performance metrics and and performance targets for bike ped and safe infrastructure. And if we don't meet those, so it's like, well, we need to meet them. We're going to initiate a project to meet them. So that's the direction we're headed in, and that's the direction we want to be in, and it's not there yet, but we are hoping soon. So yeah. And the first question, you're absolutely right. We, the bike ped branch, are very enthusiastic about bike ped, and people in other branches are not. We're slowly bringing them on board. I'm giving them this, actually, part of this bike ped update. I've been presenting at our engineering staff as well and our design staff, so showing them this is our best practices and this is Caltrans policy, and we need to and trying to bring that on board and getting them more like inundated with bike ped things, and yeah, is a challenge, and is one of my jobs is to outreach to Caltrans about that. So yeah,
That's good to hear. So yeah, thank you for that. All right, Committee Member Foster.
I would just say probably, from the PR standpoint here, and you say that, you could communicate better, and I'm sure you do have your challenges. When people think of Caltrans, they think highways. They don't think of bikes. Somehow, the whole organization probably has to rebrand itself as a transportation of all methods, not just cars. It could be pedestrian, and it's also cycling, skateboarding, what have you. So it's a long game. It also means you have to change your visuals, as in like your hard copy materials, your deliverables. Because if it's all just cars and trucks, then it has to be switched to being more holistic and adding bikes and pedestrians. Because there's so much pushback against people who don't drive when the cost of car ownership is just so costly that people aren't paying to register their cars, are not insured. It's not becoming safe out there anymore. So we have to convince the public there are other ways to travel. It doesn't have to be a car if you're able-bodied, and not to use the language, hey, let's get people out of cars. It should be, these are your transportation options. Because I don't like hearing from other people when I'm trying to push, my bike pedestrian agenda, that we're forcing people to bike, that we're forcing people to walk. It's not that way. It's not. So I think there just has to be some sort of visual and language rebranding for the Caltrans organization, that you serve all transportation users, not just the motorist.
that's a good point. Yeah. Those are all good points. Yeah, and we're actively involved in that, but it's Caltrans works slowly, so yeah, it's slow but surely.
All right, Committee Member Wilson.
I just wanted to say that I think that as I'm looking at some of the maps on the story map that's included in here, and areas where you can provide public comments and the location-based needs. One thing that stands out to me, and it may be too late for this comment, but some of these, look somewhat isolated or abstract because they connect into other jurisdictions' bike ped facilities. And it may be helpful, especially if 511 is going to, get involved, promote this to try to generate more public comments, to show where some of those connections are. Even if we're not showing the full trail, even just something that says, connects to Iron Horse Trail or Delta Danza Trail, so people understand that they have a real, these are especially some of the Class 1 sections are really closing gaps in trail network and providing, that's a major transportation corridor that folks could then, connect to either one of those trails and transit hubs as well. But if I didn't know that, if I wasn't a transit a bike ped person, I may look at that and think that's kind of abstract and bizarre place to put a trail, and not understand the service that it could actually provide, and then therefore say, hey, I want to do that. I think that should be there.
That's a good comment. Yeah, maybe we should add that to our base map or something. Yeah, existing. Yeah.
Okay, Vice Chair Weeks.
I just want to add one piece to what I said before. This isn't a new comment. As part of the SHOP project, which Member Sarmento mentioned, Chair Sarmento, there's also some work that's going on with cameras, and especially the newer Bosch camera systems are able to identify bicycles and pedestrians in new ways. And if you could tack that on to the work that's being done for the CARM and CATS, both Sycamore and Bollinger would be great places for you guys to throw some really great technology on bicycle sensing, tracking, and hook it into the new signalization on those intersections. So just a thought, next generation Bosch cameras, that might be a way that you could throw us a bone in our corridor so that we can have some moving forward on bicycle safety on these overcrossings, even if we are low priority on your tracking.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we should definitely do more for cameras for the purposes of bike ped counts, right?
The cameras do more than counting. They do a lot of tracking. That you can actually play back scenarios after they've taken place with bikes and cars, see speeds of bikes and cars. They provide post-accident materials that you can use. They allow you to control intersections based on the type of person or vehicle or car or truck approaching an intersection. They give you a lot of capabilities and be able to identify what is involved in the intersection and then triage it in the way that plays into whatever your priority is there. So if there isn't pedestrians going there a lot, when one shows up, you can prioritize that movement and get them through a more dangerous area. And so there's ways you can use these cameras that are much better than what's available on the market right now, and they're just coming available. So throw in there a couple of Bosch cameras, and they gave a presentation to us last week, and they're eager to get these out and being used. So check that out. Thank you.
Well, thanks. Thanks for the, I'll look into that. Seems promising, yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Jasmine? All right. Seeing none, just checking in. Jackie, do we have any public comment on this item?
There was no written public comment, and I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll move to the next item. Thank you, Jasmine, for that presentation. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is item 4C, review of the draft active transportation strategic policy paper, which will be presented by Colin Clark, CCTA staff.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Chair Sarmiento. Just wanted to also further contextualize this item C. So this is a strategic policy paper meant to inform the update to the countywide transportation plan for 2050. And so, as you saw included in your packet, there's a 2-page-ish, 2 to 4 page summary paper, and then following that paper is the longer version. And so we're requesting your review and feedback on each of those. So feel free to provide verbal comment today that we'll take into consideration, and feel free to email me with a CC to Jackie if you want to do it in the written form.
Okay, thank you for that quick update, Colin. Do any committee members have any questions or comments for Colin? Okay, Vice Chair Weeks.
Hi, thank you for presenting today. Appreciate you bringing this before us. I just had a couple of questions. Again, there's 2 documents, right, you're talking about here? So there was, since I'm here representing SWAT, I went down to the south section and noticed on table 6, page 82, sorry to go right to a specific thing, but it doesn't make much sense to me. It says error. So let me go to that. Let me know when you find it. I'm still looking for it.
Vice Chair Weeks,
Yes.
What page at the bottom right?
Yeah, okay, let me get that for you. Hold on. Yeah, there's a few places where it just says error like that. And one example, Chair Sarmiento just found on page 68, I guess.
At the top of page 68.
It seems like in a few places things did not populate, and we ended up with errors on not only the one I was talking about, but several other areas. So it made it hard to understand what it was about on that piece.
Only see 44.
I don't know if you're looking at a different version of the document, but the one I just downloaded from the webpage for this meeting is 44 pages in the PDF. And so I was, either that page number would be helpful, or if there's a bottom right-hand corner page number. But either way, we'll work with you offline and figure it out.
And can you remember Riley just clarified it? Yeah, actually, the error I'm seeing is actually that's for the item, the documents for item D. So, yeah, sorry.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Yes, I'll come talk to you about it later. And once we get to item D, we'll talk about those ones. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, member Riley.
So thank you for for presenting this. Is this going to be coming to the RTPCs? And then if we did want to provide sort of more comprehensive responses, should we do that as our TAC, or would you like it from the staff? Like, how would you like?
So the update to the comprehensive countywide transportation plan has already gone to RTPCs, and the action plan was created a year or two ago with input from the RTPCs. But yeah, you're representing West County, so feel free to, solicit other folks' input as well to bring in response to this. And anything in the next couple weeks will be useful that we can consider. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple just initial responses on it. I guess I'm wondering how. So, for example, there's the expand the 501 Contra Costa electric bicycle rebate program to double the incentive for low-income qualified residents. So that is funding that comes to our office, comes out of our budget, as well as Member Weeks, Member Reichert. I haven't heard about that as an objective, and it might have sort of other budget implications. So I'll probably have thoughts on that, and I guess if we could do that, we might want to talk about doing that as a team. There's a policy here that's leverage transportation demand programs to quadruple direct incentives to residents. I think that's great. I would love to. There were some recent CCTA policies that were passed early this year that are actually reducing the number of direct incentives that are going to the county. So I think that I would love to work on, I guess, either reversing that or even ideally finding, sort of newer, better funding streams for it. Just looking at some of these as potentially the responsible person for implementation, I'd have to, I guess, think about implementation on these before we sort of, move this out of the draft phase. So yeah, I'll consider it more and provide you some written comments.
Any other questions or comments for Colin? Vice Chair Weeks.
Okay, I think I'm looking at the right document now, sorry. So one thing I just jotted down while I was reading through it is there's a lot of great stuff in here. Thank you for including it. But just as a regular cyclist, I was thinking about the shoulders of roadways, and even in denser areas, more remote areas. Oftentimes during the paving process, the shoulders are either ignored or not paved as well, or damaged with pavement vehicles that are trying to pave the main road, and they use the heavy tractors and roll over the shoulder and bike lane area and then don't smooth it back out again afterwards. So the emphasis is the car right of way, and the shoulder and the bike lane area is often not thought about. So, I mean, that would be a kind of a big picture thing, is to looking at shoulders and bike lanes and making sure that they are given the same treatment as the main drive portion of the roadways during pavement processes. And maybe there's a punch list item where it's walked, prior to signing off on these things to make sure that the shoulders and bike lanes weren't damaged during that process. And I'm not talking about a specific area that you talked about in these things, just might be something to add in or look into and see if another area might have some information about that you could add.
All right, any other questions, comments? Okay, don't see any hands up. I do have just to clarify or confirm, Colin, it sounds like you're expecting comments, I guess, in the next couple of weeks? Is that what you're like? Okay. Okay, thank you. I guess, Jackie, just to check in, any public comments on this item?
No public comments, and there's no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is item 4D, an update on the development of the coordinated countywide comprehensive transportation safety action plan. And this, again, will be presented by Colin. I guess maybe introduced by Colin. We have.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you,
okay.
Chair Sarmiento. We also have Matt Broughton here from Kittleson that is part of the team, which includes Kimley Horn as well. So over the last year or so, we've been working on the Countywide Comprehensive Transportation Safety Action Plan and been bringing periodic updates. And we've met with the Vision Zero Working Group to further shape the direction of the document in the hopes that we can make something that enables local agencies to be their own lead applicant for the implementation types of grants from the Safe Streets and Roads for All from USDOT. And so I will pull up some slides. Let's see. Jackie, I'll make sure I don't share sound. Okay, so a few of the slides we want to highlight today in terms of the collision data that was analyzed, the finding that you may recall from September of 2021 was put in this format. So the idea is to have it be comparable and similar in nature. And so you can see here that each of the subregions, the different county subregions have been shown for fatalities and severe injuries, and that people walking or bicycling make up a minority of the overall trips countywide, but account for a disproportionate percentage of the fatal and severe injuries. And generally speaking, people walking or biking are twice as likely to result in a fatal or severe injury. And so the Park District was kind enough to coordinate with us to provide some of their data as well in terms of vehicle collisions and bike collisions, so that we could attempt to get as close to apples comparison with the 20 different local jurisdictions throughout Contra Costa, but also including the Park District. And CCT has been coordinating with Bart, who's also leading their comprehensive safety action plan process. So this slide just shows each of the 4 subregions and the rate of fatal and severe injury collisions, and the emphasis areas in terms of the top 3 most common in each of the subregions in terms of types of collisions. And Matt, do you want to chime in on this slide?
Sure. This is showing for each jurisdiction that has an adopted LRSP, the emphasis areas that were identified by them. And so we wanted to this effort to roll up what has been done at the local level and help create that countywide consistent vision. So this slide is showing each of those emphasis areas, and these are grouped more or less by Caltrans challenge areas, which is how they refer to emphasis areas for their priorities for safety. And so if we go to the next slide, it's really highlighting what those commonalities are, where we see most jurisdictions really focused in on intersections as a high priority, then bicycles and pedestrians by most jurisdictions, as well as addressing speed management and aggressive driving. And so those kind of became core drivers within our effort of taking this countywide vision of how do we help promote and support those local priorities through this countywide effort as well. And again, just highlighting the breakdown here by each sub-region within the county. So just highlighting, again, the priorities that were identified. So for example, in West County, all 5 jurisdictions identified pedestrians and intersections as a high priority, with bicyclists then being the next highest priority adopted by each jurisdiction. And so that maintains that same structure for each of the different jurisdictions. And you can see some of the differences that occur there, like in Central County with the impaired driving popping up as a higher priority in that jurisdiction versus others. And then part of the overall effort, again, was also just to capture what is the economic impact of collisions within the county. And so you can see here, across all subregions, we're talking about $1.3 billion a year in economic costs associated with the collisions that are occurring within the county. You can see kind of the pie charts here are showing the breakdown for the jurisdictions in the west and south subregions. So you can see where that cost is borne. I will note that this does include interstate and Caltrans facility data in it, so where a freeway is going through a jurisdiction. So that's partially Richmond has a number of state facilities that go through it that result in a number of fatal and serious injury crashes, and so that contributes to that very large share that they have in the west subregion. And then similarly sewing for Central County and East County, so same general idea here. Again, with Concord, we see that same pattern that we did in the West County with the state route facilities.
And just for context here, so the one of the primary tools that we had in working on this comprehensive transportation safety action plan was the BayViz tool that CCTA coordinated with MTC in developing, and one of its features is this economic impact of collisions. And so the Vision Zero policy was initially adopted by CCTA's board in September of 2021 and strengthened in September of 2022. CCTA has worked closely with a number of local jurisdictions to continue developing policy to address safety and in prioritizing people walking and bicycling in particular as vulnerable road users. And the County of Contra Costa, City of Lafayette, City of Walnut Creek are some example jurisdictions that have a stated Vision Zero policy. Each of the other jurisdictions are welcome to contact me and we'll coordinate with you to develop something similar. But this is something that hopefully you can bring back to your jurisdiction to show that you know, there's a massive economic impact and obviously a human cost to everything in terms of fatal and severe injuries as well. So, you know, this is meant to, you know, be another tool in your toolbox in helping inform elected representatives in continuing to build support for safer infrastructure. Matt.
Yeah, and so this is just helping to contextualize what is captured in that economic cost, and appreciate what Colin mentioned there, but you can, around the human cost, which I'll talk about in a second, but essentially the breakdown based on econometric analysis when they try to assess the cost to society of the collision, and you can see that that includes the damage to vehicles and other property as that 34%. That market productivity is the fact that when somebody is injured or dies, they are no longer contributing to their job or the economy, and that is the kind of part of all of this, is each of these elements is capturing that economic cost. But I did just want to like really hammer home that there's also a human and societal cost outside of the economic dollars of this, of somebody that is not coming home to their family anymore, or potentially has a life-changing injury that results in their not being able to play their favorite sport, or not be able to get around the way that they used to, or not be able to work in the same job. And so that element of it is partially captured in that market productivity, and economists would tell you that, but from a societal and human connection perspective, that's not necessarily captured. And so we just want to make sure that while this could be a helpful tool in communicating on one level of the economic cost, there is also the very human cost of people losing their lives and families losing someone dear to them, or having a dramatic change in their circumstances.
Sorry, before you go, if I can through the chair, what is HH-Prod?
I'm sorry?
What is HH-Prod?
Sorry, that's household productivity. So that would be your contribution to your household in terms of getting the groceries or something like that, that gets a price attached to it. And then, as Colin mentioned, part of this is building off of the BayViz analysis that was done for the entire MTC 9-county region. This is showing the breakdown of that high injury network that was identified as part of that analysis, as well as the overlay with the equity priority communities, which has been used as one of those layers that we want to filter projects up so that we're addressing multiple goals within the region at the same time. And so again, West County here, and you see a number of the state highway facilities popping up as part of that network. And then we can kind of Central County. And again, this is prioritized essentially based on using evaluation of the crash severity that is occurring, the frequency of those crashes over a set distance in order to make that calculation. And the highest percentiles then are selected for that high injury network. For South County, again, very similar. And then East County. So I think with that, we'll open it up to questions.
Yep, sounds good. And comments.
All right, thank you for that presentation. Any comments on the presentation or this item from committee members? All right, Vice Chair Weeks.
Would this be a time where if I saw something on the the chart one of the charts you were showing that, that might need an adjustment to mention it? Okay, so I was just looking at the chart you provide, emphasis areas by city, figure 37. I heard you give an explanation of how you arrived at these, and surprised that I think in our LRSP there is discussion of emerging technologies for the city of San Ramon. And I would be surprised if Danville didn't also have that. It's just very empty for the South region for emerging technology, and there's a lot of emphasis being put on emerging technology through the corridor there. So is that something that you noticed as being absent, or was it just an oversight, or what's your thinking on that?
We can check to make sure that that wasn't just something that didn't get checked in that box when we set that. I think you're referring to on this table.
Yeah, so you can see through South County, there's nothing checked in the emerging technologies.
So we will double check. It may have been in the plan, but not identified as a priority area.
Oh, wait a minute. Looks like this version is a little different than the one I'm looking at. So, yes, we do have a check for San Ramon. It looks like in emerging technologies. Is that what you're seeing from there?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So there's older one didn't have it. So thank you for adding that.
Sure, and I do want to say for the benefit of other jurisdictions as well, that I months ago anticipated this comment, so I appreciate it. But I do want to point out that a lot of these emphasis areas, the focus areas originate out of the Caltrans State Highway Safety Plan, and in terms of how we're addressing it at the countywide level, I just want to be very clear that even though, a box isn't checked, so to speak, in terms of emerging technologies, does not at all mean that it's, not being addressed at all type of thing. As many of you are aware, including Vice Chair Weeks, the Countywide Smart Signals Project and a number of other efforts are certainly addressing emerging technologies, in a meaningful way. So just want to caveat that.
And I would just, again, add again that when we are checking the box when it's identified as a specific emphasis area, it doesn't mean that the LRSP did not discuss emerging technologies in some way, but it may not have been within the local road safety plan context identified as a specific emphasis area of that plan. And so we can definitely go back and revisit to make sure that that's not a clerical error on our part.
Well, the check's there, so it works for me for today, and I know that there'll be the work going on in the county will cover that. Thank you.
Can we remember Keishan?
Yeah, if you can just cut and paste one of those checks into Danville as well, that would be great. No, this may seem like a really basic question, but you had listed out bike collisions and car collisions. Are you breaking down car and bike, is that car and bike collisions together, or is it bike collisions with other bikes, or is it bike collisions with pedestrians? I wasn't quite clear on the breakdown there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It is.
I want to make sure I'm getting the right slide that you're referring to. Is it this one?
Right. There's another scroll right there. Yeah, vehicle collisions, bicycle collisions. I would think that in a Venn diagram kind of way, there'd be an overlap, right?
Yeah, so a bicycle crash, when we say a bicycle crash in this case, would be a crash involving one of the users involved in the collision was a bicyclist. So most often it would include a vehicle as well. So there are rare cases of bike or bike.
Well, yeah, I saw there was another thing that you could hit a post. I mean, that you run into things. So I'm just.
Yes. So
it would be good to, I think, to have that data, right? Because we want to track. I think it's important to track that specific. I'm sure you have it somewhere. It's just kind of
Yeah, we can look
lunged
into
up.
that and what the breakdown
Yep, yep, yep.
would be there. But yes, it would include solo bike crashes as well. But they would need to be, most often those solo crashes do not get reported up into statewide databases because the bicyclist often walks away without, it's only when it becomes serious enough that a police officer fills out a report. for that
Yeah,
crash.
like bike pedestrian crashes, that happens, I'm sure, and that probably does get reported, right?
Yes, again, if there is a serious enough injury, but if a bicyclist hits a pedestrian on a trail and nobody files a police report, then that is not making it into the statewide database. So that is a limitation, and it is something that is known of underreporting related to walking and biking and rolling crashes, is that they are more likely to be underreported.
And then one more data point, because I love data, is e-bike, breaking down e-bike, because we need to track that, right? This is something that people are just speaking to anecdotally, but I think it's really important for us to start to keep track of that data.
Yeah, and that is something where the data structure is currently catching up to the changes in technology, where the database and the report forms that were being filled out wouldn't necessarily always capture that. That is something that is being brought into the police report and then also into the statewide database. So it's not something that we can do a lot of historical tracking on, but it is something that we hope to be able to track going forward in the future.
And I appreciate the comment too. Micromodes.org is one of the consolidated locations where you can find electric scooters and electric bikes for fatal and severe injuries. And so we are aware of that, and then we've been coordinating with the State Department of Public Health in terms of their data collection and analysis to also address that issue. But appreciate that comment, because it has to be at the local level in each of the police departments as well. And so that's one of the ways that the local road safety plan and the multidisciplinary task force that's stood up to have different agencies coordinating with one another. That's another opportunity to bring up an issue like this one where they can update the reporting template itself so that we get more granular data.
Committee member, our Vice Chair Weeks, you had one more additional comment, correct?
Hey, I'm back. So I wanted to just say one thing about bike share regionally. Just I was excited to see that there was seemed like an emphasis on reinstituting bike sharing or looking at bike sharing or continuing bike sharing and on the corridor. So it did. Hopefully I'm looking at the right document, but it was talking about expanding the partnership with, I think it was the Bay Wheels group, or the existing bike sharing programs. And I just want to put a olive branch out from San Ramon and say, hey, we really like to go on for the next step of bike sharing on the corridor too. We tried Bird out, and Bird stepped away after, I think it was 6 months. So we didn't really move forward after that, and I've been talking to the city of Dublin about the potential of e-bikes and using those on the Iron Horse Trail corridor as sharing from BART. So I'm not sure what the next step is for that, and I think that it'd be great to include this committee and some of the cities on the corridor, especially with the new app coming out. It'd be great to have a little more clarity on that. And I don't know if that's something you would do in this document, but I heard you talking about the accidents related to those kind of things. But for this, maybe just looking at that micromobility component and the autonomous vehicles and smaller electric vehicles, low speed. If there's anything you can include there, I know that some of the cities that have representatives here are looking to do some things, including banning e-bikes from downtowns of a couple of the cities. At least I heard some talk about that. So I think that as we got to be able to keep up with the regulation as it's starting to be produced locally, especially with a regional document. I think providing some guidance to the local municipalities through these documents would be really helpful. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments for Colin? For me, oh, go ahead, Committee Member Foster.
Yeah, I know it kind of, what I want to say kind of sounds strange, but I did read it somewhere, and it does make sense. When I'm actually looking at the East County, I guess there's the priority of issues like aggressive driving and speeding. It's because I think one factor is we have a very low tree canopy, and when you have that clear sight out there, like a airport tarmac, people tend to speed. So it's really better to pack a lot of these streets with big trees, natural visual obstruction, and it's better for a car to hit a tree than another car or a pedestrian, because trees are just the natural buffer out there. And it just really behooves me that there's just all this clear cutting of the medians. And I look at it like, why did you remove that tree? Now people are going to speed. And it does happen, and I'm looking at the data, it does make sense. The clearer the street, the faster people drive. We need to just put these big trees back into the medians, especially for the wider streets, let's say 4, 5, or 6 lanes. They need bigger trees. Big street, big trees. Small street, small trees. We really need trees.
Thank you.
I was just going to make one comment, and I did see it, I guess, a difference between, what's in the document that was in the packet versus what was shared, and it kind of goes back to, what Colin described a few minutes ago. Yeah, thank you for making changes to include the unincorporated county, and at least in the slides here, and if you could make the appropriate changes in the pack, or
The full-length report.
Yeah,
for
the
sure.
report.
Will do, yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you. Okay. Any final questions or comments on this item? Okay, Jackie, did we receive any public comment on this item?
No public comment received and no hands are raised.
Okay, all right, thank you. And we'll move on to item 4E, which is discuss draft scope for future grant opportunities. And this is another item that will be presented by Colin.
So as part of the Countywide Transportation Safety Action Plan, Kimley Horn and Kittleson have been helping each of the local agencies develop grant application opportunities to try to find the biggest bang for the buck in terms of fatalities and severe injuries countywide, and coordinating closely with our local agency partners to put together a scope of work. And one of the kind of recurring themes across many different jurisdictions tends to be resources in terms of, if it's not funding, it's staff availability and workload, and we're definitely sensitive to that. We hear you. So in terms of the scoping, it's something that's been kind of evolving over time, but closely coordinated with local agency staff, in particular Public Works. And so I will share screen with, it's just like a brief 2-pager included in the packet. But each, similar to an earlier multi-jurisdiction application, it includes each of the 4 subregions to the extent that we were able to address equity priority communities and address some of the high injury corridor segments, and leveraging existing but newer tools like Assembly Bill 43 in terms of speed reduction, speed management, and not just changing the posted speed limits, but doing it in a safe systems approach way where we're talking about physical modifications, including curb bulb outs and other features that address traffic calming more holistically and more comprehensively. So feel free to provide input on this, verbal and written as well.
All right, thank you for that update, Colin. Any committee member questions or comments for this item? Okay. Vice Chair Weeks.
Sorry, I just love talking about this stuff. So, one question we've had in the development of our bike master plan update from our planning departments is some of the language that we use is talking about complete streets. And our consultant put in some language that says that we must consider or must create complete streets when we're creating streets. And the planning department representative was concerned and wanted to know how much regulation there is, or if there's regulation that would say they must, or if it's just something that we could want to do out of the goodness of our hearts. So that's one question. It'd be interesting to have that information to include when we talk about some of these grants that we're working on right now. I sent you an email on behalf of San Ramon about that matching fund piece that we're going to need because we have a budget shortfall this year. I want to make sure that we have the money, that matching funds for when these grants come along. So maybe can you touch on when these grants might be applied for and when the matching funds for those kinds of grants might need to be attained? And that'd be helpful for me. And you can get back to me with that if it's just my question or if it's something that you think would be useful for everybody to answer today.
Sure. I mean, this is a near-term effort because this has been going on since April, May of 2023. So we're trying to wrap it up in August in terms of the scoping of the grant application. But, you know, there's multi-agency jurisdiction grant application opportunities all the time with different fund sources and different colors of money. So we're, you know, open to coordinating in an ongoing fashion for sure. This is just, you know, one additional opportunity. So, you know, and we are aware that with the local agencies' budgeting processes that have just taken place, you know, there's a different fiscal environment in terms of being able to provide match funds and that type of thing. So I appreciate the input. Just to quickly respond to the complete streets question, there is the 2008 state law that addresses complete streets. And if you look at MTC's resolution 4493, which was adopted, I want to say, in 2022, that updated the 2006 resolution. That's the one that addresses complete streets and requires that each project of a certain threshold go through the process where CBPAC is the review authority in terms of the complete streets checklist. But yeah, there's definitely more information in there, so I just want to point that out.
Thank you. I can't believe you remembered all that. Amazing. I'll look those up. Appreciate it.
Committee Member Riley.
Hi, Colin. Thanks. I just want to say, just as the West County rep, 23rd Street, Barrett Ave, Cutting Boulevard, Carlson Boulevard, these are the streets we hear about, maybe except for St. Pablo Avenue or whatever. These are the big streets, so I'm glad to see them on here.
Any other questions or comments for Colin on this item? Okay, seeing none. Any public comments, Jackie, on this item?
No public comments received, and I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to item F, which is discuss draft scope of development of the countywide streamlined micromobility regulatory policy. And again, I think this is be presented by Colin.
So just a little bit of background on this one. So in 2019, CCTA hosted the forum on micromobility. Many of you may recall, and in terms of the countywide bike and ped plan, micromobility was listed as one of the top 3 priorities. And so moving forward in terms of the scoping process, want to provide an additional opportunity to provide input on, the scoping process. In general, I'll summarize it in the way that we have San Ramon and a number of other jurisdictions that had pilot programs for micromobility, things like electric scooters, electric bikes, bike share. In the case of this effort, the idea is, and feel free to provide input on, how it can best serve your agencies, but the input that we heard across Contra Costa was the need to streamline regulatory policy to be able to, establish a micromobility program across jurisdictional boundaries. And so the hope is that, we can go through in a similar way that we've done in other efforts, work with the regional transportation planning committees, get input from each of the local agencies as to, different priorities and strategic priorities in terms of policy, and trying to come to a consensus on something that can be countywide, so that, attracting a vendor will be quite a bit, more competitive and perhaps easier of a sell to some of the larger companies that are in the micromobility space. I do appreciate that the county is in attendance today too, so feel free to come up in terms of discussing any sort of other studies and other efforts that are ongoing, because we all want to be coordinating.
Okay, thank you on that, for that update. Colin, is there any committee member questions or comments on this item? All right, committee member Riley?
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up. I'm just realizing the packet that I downloaded off the CCTA website stops at the last item, and so I guess there are some packets out there that have more pages on it, so I'm sorry I wasn't able to review this ahead of the meeting. I'm just wondering, is this something maybe you would want like an ad hoc committee of this committee to like help you sort of like work on? I mean, I'd be open to like entertaining that. This is something that we were talking a lot about in West County sort of pre-pandemic, and then the sort of pandemic hit and really changed the mobility space or whatever, but we were talking about doing an effort like this sort of on our own, just so that we could have consistency across our jurisdictions and stuff. So, I mean, it's something that I'm particularly interested in, so yeah, just wanted to sort of put that out there as being a resource.
Committee member Riker?
Yeah, hi. We haven't been very successful in the county with micromobility projects, right? We can agree on that. Have there been any reports of the small projects that we have had, and like what the problems were? And, I mean, I've seen some of the survey results, like for example, the 680 transportation habit survey. I think I read somewhere in there it was like 3% of people are interested in trying micromobility. So it doesn't seem like most people are very interested in it. some of the projects we've had haven't been super great. So it'd be nice to see like a summary of, you know, just the facts of what the problems are. And, you know, I mean, I like the idea of micromobility and scooter share and all of that, but, you know, I think we need to be, like, let's look at the problems and see how we can actually make it work here.
Sounds good. Appreciate the input.
All right, Committee Member Foster.
Yeah, so I agree with Kirsten. It's like to Kirsten's point, I mean, we can only achieve more success with micromobility if we fix the safety aspect. That's what it is. People don't want to be out there and be vulnerable. That's why they don't bike as much, they don't walk as much. And cars are bigger. There's SUVs and trucks and what have you, especially in East County, where I would think 30% of people are in the trades. So everybody's driving an F-150 or a Silverado. And I don't want to get hit by that. And I'm in a small micromobility, you know, scooter. So, you know, if we can fix the fear factor and the safety aspect, and how do we manage all these big vehicles on road, I think we'd have more success with micromobility.
All right, any other questions, comments on this item? Vice Chair Weeks.
So I'm just full disclosure, I don't have the attachment yet, so sorry if I'm duplicating a question. We're sending around the latest version of the attachment so we can all read it. But I just wanted to throw in here the need that I've heard about bigger bike lockers for e-bikes. And I know that you probably have already addressed this. I know you've experienced these problems yourself. But I know that our vendor is a great partner, and I don't know if they have the bigger size, but maybe it would be worth talking with Bike Link and the team for the e-lockers to pilot a larger, taller, longer e-lockers, because I think until that exists, that micromobility will be limited since those vehicles are so expensive. And I haven't heard a lot about them getting stolen, but I have seen stripped e-bikes in many places, piled in places, so that leads me to think that they're probably getting stolen too. I don't know what the numbers are there, but it might be worth having that tracked by enforcement, like when they're taking reports of stolen bikes, that they designate e-bikes or regular bikes so that we can keep track of the statistics related to those things. And address, and we can use that to push forward with specific parking for vehicles like that. Also, I've seen companies that are now putting charging on racks for micromobility, and so that people can charge their e-bike scooters while they're locked. And I think that that's a great trend. But as we know, it's going to be difficult to maintain those things, so maybe pairing that with the e-lockers so that you can charge in the locker would be great for safety and that kind of stuff. And then if we're talking about sharing, one piece from San Ramon is that we really had a lot of resistance to having what we call the furniture zone available to returning of bike share vehicles, so allowing people to leave bike share and e-bikes out on the street between the roadway and the sidewalk. People just couldn't get used to having that sitting out front of their house, and so I think that there's a suburban model that we would love to be part of a bigger pitch, something that's a little more pod-based in our more deep suburban neighborhoods, and maybe a little more flexibility in the denser parts of San Ramon that we're developing. So maybe a hybrid of what's been out there. So we'd love to continue to offer that or be part of that. I feel like we were in a partnership with CCTA on the initial launch, and when that one petered out, there hasn't been new traction for the next step. And so I made sure to put in my review this year to get on top of it. So I'm going to be calling you guys about this, seeing if there's a way that we can get more involved, either supporting Bright Bikes in San Ramon to be a more expanded option in the short run, or look at more corridor-based stuff and pilot a couple things. So just to keep us in mind in San Ramon for that piece. So thank you for listening to my ramblings here. Sorry if you already addressed all that in your attachment. Okay, thank you.
Community Member Riker.
Chris, you just said a suburban model, and does that exist yet?
No, and that's something that I think that we'll be developing, and I think that that's something that in my discussions with Danville and their challenges with talking about bike share and what the next step would be, I think they're having some of the same issues we were, where it's people feel like they own everything they can see out the front of their window. And if there's a vehicle there for a longer period of time, it starts to bother them. So I think that in a suburban environment, there might be better ways to organize it. I was just in Healdsburg though yesterday, and they had Bird e-bikes on the sidewalk, and so it seems like Bird is still using that same model where you're allowed to return it basically wherever you end your reservation. But there was a lot of resistance to that in San Ramon, and people really didn't like it. So I think that I'm trying to develop something like that where, like Doherty Valley, for example, there would be a pod in each park, for example, and that's where you had to start and end your e-bike reservation. And then in the denser part of San Ramon, where we're looking to, right now, building a lot of housing, there would be a little more flexibility as far as that goes, or just more destination-based pods that are at retail locations and other places where people can start and end those reservations. But you're right, there is no model set for the suburbs yet. And there's something like Walnut Creek, which is a lot denser. It's closer to an urban model, but then it's also suburban too. So there's might be a third model there too. But I think that working on something and focusing on the suburban nature of a lot of this corridor would be helpful for at least South County, not for more dense areas in Walnut Creek. But I don't know, just an idea.
Yeah, that's kind of my point, is we need a different model that's going to work out here. It just seems like we're trying to put something that works great in some urban places, and it's just not. It's been flopping. So it'd be nice to get something that works here.
Community Member Riley.
Sorry, just one more quick thing. Just under the meetings and deliverables, I mean, it looks like you have a pretty comprehensive list of things there. I just might suggest maybe some of the local BPACs, maybe some of the larger, like Richmond BPAC or Bike Concord or something like that, as potential places to get additional information.
Okay, any other comments? Committee Member Keeshan.
Yes. One of the reasons why I got involved in this whole group and committee is I used to work for a company that's based out of Amsterdam, and we used to go visit there a lot. And I think that they've done a really good job of creating bike rack infrastructures. So bike lockers are kind of expensive, right? And if you think about how that plays out, it takes up a lot of real estate. Whereas you can have multi-level racks that people kind of wheel their bikes up into. And, I just would suggest that you might want to take a look at that, because there's no other city that's solved the bike issue better than Amsterdam. So, and because it's so crowded, right, and because there's so many people that, and if we're going to begin with the end in mind, right, we're thinking 10 years down the road, a scalable infrastructure to support bike racking would be a really good thing to get involved in, in conjunction with BART and all these other hub areas. So.
Any other questions, comments? Can we remember Foster?
I'm just going to follow up on my comment on the big vehicles, probably to strengthen code enforcement to make sure no one's taking home a semi-trailer, because we cannot have kids in scooters if you have households with large construction and industrial vehicles in the neighborhoods. There's no place for that. Our streets cannot be safe if people are hoarding these vehicles on their properties.
Okay, any other comments? I do have one. I want to. I would say just appreciate CCTA's effort in this endeavor. I think coming from the county, and we adjacent to several all the other cities here in Contra Costa County, and I think we do have an issue sometimes, or it was kind of discussed earlier. If different jurisdictions are going to have different micromobility ordinances or policy, it does impact the county, because, and actually that was the issue that happened before, because actually it happened here at Contra Costa Center, because we were getting bikes from Shadelands at Walnut Creek, and I think, who was it at Shadelands? It was, I forgot, the Lime. They weren't aware of the county's policies, and when they were dropping off bikes here, they were saying, well, Walnut Creek gave us, they allowed us to park bikes on the roadways and sidewalks, and we had to tell them that the county doesn't allow that. So I think the challenge that the county has is just, different jurisdictions having, potentially different policies, and it's good, Colin, if, CCTA comes up with a model policy that the cities could, model their particular ordinance on. I do, as stated earlier, it is a challenge because different cities have are more suburban or urban or rural, et cetera. So, but I guess that's just that's part of the challenge of this, this ordinance that you're developing. But I hope, ultimately that we could, at least take some bits and pieces from the model ordinance and, incorporate into our individual jurisdictions, so that at least there's some level of consistency. So I just wanted to mention that. All right.
In Austin, they've got, and I'm sure that you guys have heard of this, but part of the service is they retrieve the bikes, that there's air tags or something in the bikes. So if we go into a contract with some of these vendors, they have the bike retrieval, and they collect the data on the most popular places where the bikes are being picked up, and then they use that data to stockpile the appropriate number of bikes based on the average traffic. So that might be something to look into. Austin is a great example of that.
Okay. Any other comments? Actually, I'll go. Suzanne, just raise her hand, then I'll go with you after. So yeah, Committee Member Wilson.
Thanks. I think from the Park District standpoint, we think CCTA is in a good position to look at this from a regional perspective, and that it should be looked at from a regional perspective. Of course, our facilities cross all the jurisdictions, so it would be challenging for it to be piecemealed. And then I'll just, say that just for right now, our ordinances currently allow e-bikes. I think we probably all know this, but for example, on the Iron Horse Trail, e-bikes are allowed, the e-scooters are not allowed. I know there's been a lot of interest in adding that use to, in particular, the Iron Horse Trail. And I think that I don't want to get ahead of the Iron Horse Trail Corridor Committee, but there is some talk about capacity issues, and it does make sense as we're talking about it that when safety is a big concern, and separating folks who are using scooters and bikes from folks who are driving vehicles and trucks, does make sense that the trail system would provide the network for that. But we are still at a capacity issue where adding a new use to the trail could create a different kind of a safety issue as it is now. So there is some talk about how the Iron Horse Trail corridor can potentially change to help with that, based on some change in legislation. But I think maybe it's on a different track. I don't want to get ahead of Carl and some of the conversations that are happening for the Iron Horse Trail corridor, but just keep in mind those conversations are happening, are coordinated.
You talk about signs. If we could have signs that, you know, this is a little bit of an education process. E-bikes should not be going over 15 miles an hour. There should be a sign that pedestrians need to keep one ear open, right? They put on the earphones and it's a hazard. And so if you're talking about safety, we do need to educate the public that when you're on a trail, you do need to be mindful and aware of your surroundings. So I don't know if anybody's encountered that before, but I've been riding my bike and I ring my bell, they don't hear me, and they, you know, they're walking two abreast or something like that, and they swerve over. Now, obviously, as a bicyclist, you have to pay attention to that, but I think the safety goes both ways.
All right, Committee Member Foster.
Final comment, and along with those signs, let's make sure they're bilingual. We have a huge Spanish-speaking population, and a lot of them are monolingual.
All right, we'll do. Okay, I know we're over time here, so want to move forward, but I know we'll finish with Vice Chair Weeks. You had one last comment.
Super fast. I've been talking with our police department, and since they are basically don't have many positions filled because of our budget issues, they've asked that we don't rely so heavily on the enforcement piece. And I was pushing really hard to try to make bike and ped a priority and moving forward with our SS4A grants. So in the feedback from the police that I spoke with, they are overwhelmed, and adding more things for them to enforce, I think it's going to be difficult to get those things enforced. So I think that, designing our micromobility, especially a shared piece, in a way that it doesn't require police enforcement, I think would be a good way to go, so that make it so the system requires you to return it to a rack that won't let you end your reservation till it gets to a rack. That might be a good way as part of our suburban system to limit the involvement of police and the impounding of vehicles or the ticketing of people or those kinds of things. So it's just a request from the police department that we try to design our networks so that they enforce themselves. So rather than assuming a police officer is going to write a ticket for someone riding in the bike lane in a car, there would be a vertical element in that bike lane, for example, so that it would police itself, basically. So I just want to throw that in there. It was a kind of an ask. So I don't know how you mix that in. Thanks.
I just want to make one final comment before we move forward. I don't know if everybody received in their packet the scope of work related to this ordinance. So, Colin, if you could, you or your staff, if they could forward that to the members here, and just give us a timeline to when we respond back to you with any additional comments on this, that would be great. Before I move on, Jackie, just checking to see if any public comments on this item.
No public comments received and no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to item G, which is upcoming subjects for discussion. So are there any items that the committee members or staff would like to discuss at a future meeting? And I see Committee Member Riley's hand up.
Sure. So Richmond and Somerville Bridge. So MTC has been giving their presentations on the potential ending of the pilot for the Richmond-Somerville Bridge around to various decision-making bodies. They presented to CCTA, and they presented to the WICTAC board last month. And those were just informational presentations about the potential, closing of the bike path. And our board decided that they wanted to consider a resolution at their next coming meeting, which is later this week. So that'll be discussed at our meeting on Friday. And so, but CCTA was just an informational, and they didn't have any sort of follow-up, voting on anything like that. And so I just thought it'd be potentially appropriate to request a presentation, since we are the, advisory committee to CCTA on these matters. And you know, they don't necessarily have to come here in person. They could do it remotely or something like that too. So, yeah, I just wanted to toss it out and see if we could get a presentation on the sort of state of the Richmond and San Rafael Bridge.
All right, thank you. Any other items that committee members would like to discuss? Committee
Maybe
member
it's not
Keeshan.
appropriate for this group, but I think I'd like to talk to the gentleman about the Iron Horse Trail. I think it would be a really good idea if we could try to get corporate sponsors, you know, like highway patrol, sponsorships for stretches of land. We could get sponsorships along the Iron Horse Trail with a small little kind of notation that it's sponsored by a certain company within the jurisdiction of the area. So it might be a nice way to beautify the Iron Horse Trail, which, you know, sometimes in some spots can look a little rough. So I'd love to discuss how we could do that.
Okay, I'll discuss it with CCTA staff and also with county staff and get back to you about that. All right, any other future items for discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the last item on the agenda, which is other business / information sharing. Is there any other updates? I guess we kind of started that already, but yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to let you all know that we did, our TAC has selected a citizen representative for West County, Janet Byron, who's the founder of the El Cerrito Richmond Annex Walk and Roll Group. And so she's on the agenda for our meeting this Friday to get confirmed, and hopefully that all goes well. We're also, the TAC is recommending that we chose a citizen alternate, Gaia Sonatina, who is also with the same group. So that's just going to our board. And hopefully they can join us at our next meeting.
All right, thank you. Any other items to share with the committee here? Okay, not hearing any, so I guess this is actually the last item, which is adjournment. The next regular meeting is proposed for September 23rd.